World leaders are absolutely furious at Donald Trump and the Trump regime, and they are striking back. They're pissed that last Friday, Donald Trump announced that he was going to be raising tariffs against the world on steel and aluminum from 25% to 50%. All of these countries who are negotiating with Trump's Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick, or Trump's Trade Representative Jamieson Greer, or Trump's Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent, the goal of these negotiations is to reduce tariffs reciprocally for everybody, and just to try to figure out solutions despite all the deranged and unhinged conduct of Donald Trump. And every time some progress is made with one of Trump's proxies, Trump goes out there and wants to feel like, I'm not a taco. I don't chicken out. Today I'm going to raise the tariffs on aluminum and steel from 25% to 50%, essentially creating an embargo on steel and aluminum from foreign exporters. Now, here's the thing, Donald. You're going to cause tens and thousands, potentially hundreds of thousands of American jobs who use steel as a component part in their manufacturing process to build other things. You're literally crashing our economy each and every day. So here's what I want to share with you. The Premier of Ontario in Canada, Doug Ford said, what Trump just did again is economic war. We're in an economic war with the United States. This is Doug Ford from yesterday. Play this clip.
Let's not forget that President Trump has declared an economic war on every single business, every single person in this country. And we need to do everything we can to fight against him.
And here's what Doug Ford, again, the Premier of Ontario, said in terms of retaliation. Play this clip.
We had an agreement, even if it was verbally, 25% tariffs on steel and aluminum, and we put 25% tariffs as well. And out of the blue, another 25%. But and it's never against the American people, by the way. I love the American people. I love the U.S. What the problem is, he just taxed the people, Americans, by $15 billion by adding these tariffs. We buy $30 billion worth of steel and aluminum off the U.S. And now we have no choice. We have to start onshoring everything that we manufacture, get converted down in the U.S. back to Ontario. And no matter if it's steel beams or aluminum cans or tin cans, that employs tens of thousands of people in the U.S. I've directed our team to make sure that we take every single steel and aluminum widget, bring it back to Ontario, and then we have another $200 billion of infrastructure that we use a tremendous amount of steel from the U.S. It's very short-sighted, in my opinion. They can't see the forest beyond the trees. Maybe the steel sector, are jumping up and down, but when they start laying people off because $30 billion are going to disappear from production down there, and then the $15 billion of every single item that is made from steel or aluminum. We know steel's gone up 16%, any products.
And then you look in Mexico to President Claudia Sheinbaum, who's got a popularity in Mexico of over 80%. Her approach has always been, she knew from day one Trump's a taco. Let's just say it that way, right? So her approach from day one, she knew his psychology. Just go back to late January, early February, when Donald Trump did the first tariffs and chickened out against Canada and Mexico, right? She was like, I have plan A and B and C ready to go. Let's just see what he does. We'll see what he does. But here she is. She goes, okay, you're going to do aluminum and steel tariffs? We will be prepared to retaliate, not because we're trying to cause you harm. We need to protect our sovereignty. This is a threat to our sovereignty. Here's what she has to say. Play this clip.
We don't believe it's fair or sustainable because it makes everything more expensive, and we hope to reach an agreement. If that can't be achieved, then we will also be announcing some measures that we necessarily have to take to strengthen and protect jobs. This isn't a matter of revenge in English. They call it retaliation, right? It's a matter of protection. Our responsibility, first and foremost, as a government and as a society, is to protect jobs for Mexican workers. And second, to protect the steel industry and to ensure stability and growth. A 50% tariff represents a very significant impact on the steel and aluminum industry. Even the 25% tariff already caused problems, but we were managing it by reducing imports from other regions of the world.
And here's what Canada's Prime Minister Mark Carney had to say yesterday. Play this clip.
The latest tariffs on steel and aluminum are unjustified. They're illegal. They're bad for American workers, bad for American industry, and of course for Canadian industry as well. We have counter tariffs in a gross amount before remissions on over 90 billion of U.S. imports. We've acted strong. Those are in place. We will take some time, not much, some time, because we are in intensive discussions right now with the Americans on the trading relationship. Those discussions are progressing. I would note that the American action is a global action. It's not one targeted at Canada. So we will take some time, but not more, before we respond.
It's interesting because now you have Doug Ford from the Conservative Party, though at the provincial level. He's coming out strong now. And he used to be Maple MAGA, as everybody knows. I mean, Doug Ford used to wear the MAGA hat, and I think his kids were going around wearing MAGA hats too. And I think he previously, in the first Trump administration, he said a lot of positive things about Trump. And now he wants Canada to double its own tariffs against the United States. Let's talk about the European Union as well. So the European Union's trade commissioner, Maros Sefcovic, he goes, what the hell is going on here? Europe's like, again, they're dealing with Jameson Greer, the American trade representative, and Besant. They're like, Greer, Besant, we're trying to do a freaking deal with you. And Trump's out there now saying 50% tariffs on aluminum and steel. It's bad faith. How do we do a deal with you? So European Union Trade Commissioner Maros Sefcovic told reporters on Wednesday that he discussed with U.S. Trade Representative Jameson Greer that the U.S. decision to levy 50% tariffs on steel and aluminum, telling him that he strongly regretted the move and that it doesn't help trade talks. And the EU's trade minister is saying, we discussed this with Greer. We told him we strongly regret it. It does not help our negotiations as well. There was this particularly telling exchange, though, that to me revealed everything. It's probably the most important video that I want to share with you about Trump's policy of tariffing the world. Because you can see what's emanating from the regime from Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick. And Justin Wolfer says it like this. The exchange that we're about to show you is revealing, terrifying, and intellectually bankrupt. No world leader would ever want to enter a room to deal with this guy because he's a crank. He's a wacko. And here's what went down. You had a Republican Senator John Kennedy, no relation to the actual Kennedys. And this John Kennedy from Louisiana makes a fake voice. He doesn't really talk like that. He just made up this whole routine. Just go back and look at him 20 years ago. He doesn't talk like this. Anyway, so Republican Senator John Kennedy goes and asks Howard Lutnick. So let's just assume Vietnam says we are removing every single trade barrier that exists from now until forever. Would America do the same, and would you enter a deal with Vietnam? And Howard Lutnick goes, absolutely not. And then that caught the Republican, John Kennedy, who, by the way, this Kennedy guy supports Trump's abilities to tariff the world. But Kennedy's like, what do you mean? I thought the whole idea of these tariffs is to help build reciprocity, and it was a negotiating tool. And Howard Lutnick's view, and it's like he does it in a creepy way. Howard Lutnick's like, now we're talking. Now we're talking. I'm like, this guy's a freaking weirdo. The hell is going? This is the guy who, by the way, this guy's somehow a billionaire. I'm like, this snake oil salesman is the guy dealing with the European Union and Canada. Could you imagine Howard Lutnick in a room? Now we're talking. I'm like watching this thing. I'm like, freaking weird dude. Here, play this clip.
If Vietnam, for example, came to you tomorrow and said, okay, Mr. Secretary, you win. We're going to remove all tariffs and all trade barriers. Would the United States please do the same? Would you accept that deal?
Absolutely not.
Okay.
Absolutely not. That would be the silliest thing we could do.
Why is that?
Vietnam has a $125 billion exports to us and imports from us $12.5 million. And you're thinking, Vietnam exports $125 billion?
I'm aware of the figures, but tell me.
But where do they get it from? They buy $90 billion from China, then they mark it up and send it to us.
So they're
just a pathway of China to us.
You wouldn't accept that deal?
No, it's a terrible deal. We're the one with money. We're the one with the store. Of course they want us to take down.
What's the purpose of reciprocity then? Is reciprocity not one of your goals? Are you telling the president that we shouldn't seek reciprocity? If that's what you're telling him, why are you trying to do these trade deals?
What do we want? We want to encourage Vietnam to produce products they're great at producing.
But I want to get back to reciprocity. You just said you don't believe in it. You don't accept reciprocity as a goal. What are you negotiating in these trade deals?
Why would we open our bank account and their bank account?
Why are you negotiating trade deals? You're trying to get other countries to lower their tariffs and trade barriers in return for us lowering ours.
That's true for the things that they'll take from us.
That's called reciprocity.
Of course.
So are you or are you not seeking reciprocity in these trade deals?
We are absolutely seeking reciprocity with respect to things that can be reciprocal.
But you just said,
but when they're importing from China and sending it to us, they're not. You just said that
if a country came to you and offered you the ultimate reciprocity, no tariffs, no trade barriers, in return for us doing the same, you would reject that.
Of course, because they buy from China and send it to us. Don't you agree with me?
Suppose they said we won't buy from China.
Now we're talking. If it was Vietnam,
would you accept that deal?
We would consider it. For what things? For
what
products?
Would you want to change?
Well, there are certain products we want to reshore. We don't want other people making them. We want to make pharmaceuticals here.
Right? Wasn't that just so completely revealing here? Here's what's going on too. We have European Union leaders potentially planning a meeting with Xi Jinping in July. Xi Jinping is weighing ordering hundreds of Airbus jets from France as a way to say F you to Boeing in the United States. Yeah, you have French President Emmanuel Macron, Chancellor Friedrich Merz of Germany, and others thinking about visiting Beijing to mark 50 years of diplomatic relations. And there's a reset in, do you see what's going on internationally, right? You had the Trump regime come in. You have Marco Rubio and J.D. Vance and Trump, although Trump rants and raves like a lunatic. But J.D. Vance and Rubio were like, we no longer want the United States to be the leader of the world. That's what they said. So we view the United States as part of a multipolar system. And they cite China, Russia, US as the big factors in this multipolar system. Okay, fine. Strange thing coming from the Republican Party, but that's your view of things. Then the United States goes and attacks all of its allies and adversaries, but everybody, right? Canada gets attacked. Australia gets attacked by the US. European Union gets attacked. Mexico gets attacked. All of Latin America and Central America. Africa gets attacked. Cuts off USAID, killing, hundreds of thousands of people. America attacks everybody, right? So then you have the European Union assert itself. We're going to defend Ukraine. We're standing up. We want the euro to be the world reserve currency. You've got China standing up, going to Africa, going to South America, going to Mexico, all throughout Latin America, Caribbean countries. The European Union said, look, you may not have trusted us before, but let's reset our relations. We're far more reliable than the United States. We support free trade. We support a globalized world. We want to build out clean energy. We want to invest in your countries. That's what China said. What can we do? How do we pitch this? Then you've got Russia reaching out to, India and China and saying, well, why don't we form alliances right here? And you've got the US with freaking Pete Hegseth out there giving these dumbass speeches where he's like, we are not here to humiliate China, but we will not ever back down. It's like, dude, you're just cosplaying the role. You look like a moron. You've got Donald Trump saying, ooh, Vladimir Putin talked about Melania. That must be a good thing that he talks about Melania. He's mocking you, you idiot. Then you've got Taco Trump. Trump always chickens out on his trade wars, on foreign policy. We're going to give you bloody hell. We're going to unleash hell. When? Noon tomorrow. All right, we're not going to do anything. I'm going to end the war. No, I'm not. I mean, it's utter. So going back to what I said, you went from a multipolar world where the U.S. saw itself as U.S., Russia, China, to a multipolar world of Europe, Russia, and China, and the U.S., this kind of weird pariah Kim Jong-un-ish country. We have a powerful legacy in the U.S. When Trump said we were so weak and we were laughed at. No, we weren't. Now we are. Just like your failed businesses, Donald. Just like all the stuff you've screwed up in your life. You screw up. You felon. You sexual abuser. You fraud. Right? So that's where we are. It's just utter weakness, and all these other countries are calling it out. Companies in the U.S. are passing on their tariffs to the consumers. Heck, Trump can't even run his own restaurant. The Trump Golf Club health score, they found 32 health violations at it. No, it's got a 32 out of 100 from the health department, finding 18 health violations. You can't even run Bedminster. You can't even run freaking Bedminster. It's gross. Well, there you have it. The world knows what's up. Anyway, hit subscribe. Let's get to 5 million subscribers.
Can't get enough Meidas? Check out the Meidas Plus Substack for ad-free articles, reports, podcasts, daily recaps from Ron Filipkowski, and more. Sign up for free now at MeidasPlus.com.